meetup in Austin. It's great to be relocated here, and it's great to be hosting you all. And so the purpose of this event is to give us all an opportunity and a context in which we can maintain, so that we can learn all about the vast ecosystem that's developing around Lightning. And as we together explore the possibility space of this technology, I'm excited to travel these lands with you through this event. And here's my co-host.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Hey, yeah. Austin Lightning devs, what? This is awesome, yeah. Cool, hey, I'm Lisa, also known as Nifty Nye on the internet. I work at Blockstream on Core Lightning, so tend to be more at like the protocol level than the application layer, which I feel like there's a lot of people in the audience that are more on the app level. So super excited that Ben invited me to help him out, do the Lightning devs here in Austin, make it like the best Texas Lightning developer meetup in the city of Austin. Hometown Houston, come on guys, like, okay. Yeah, so I think what our plan for today is just give you a kind of quick overview of what we're gonna do. I've got some recent updates in the Lightning ecosystem that we can talk through. We're gonna do Socratic style. This is my first Lightning dev. How does this work, Ben? Yeah.
So there are a few differences from the Socratic seminar, and that is, first of all, is anyone here, raise your hand if you're unwilling to be photographed or concerned about photography. So we have one person. So and two people. Okay, so in the Lightning ecosystem, we're open to photography and questions and those sorts of things. So that's going to be a little more open here.
Great. Okay. So, right. So I'm going to talk through some stuff. Are questions allowed? If people have questions.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So if you have questions, please ask. You can raise your hand, and one of us will call on you. It'll be great. So I'm going to go through some recent updates that we sourced. Then we have a very special speaker that I'm very excited about, who we will introduce after we get through our updates. And then we've got a few things to shill. And then I think then we'll open it up if anyone has an announcement that they want to make at the end.
That's right. We can, at the end, we'll line up. If anyone wants to address the group, you'll have an opportunity to do that.
Awesome. Okay, let's get started. Recent updates number 1, SGX on LDK, question mark. What's this? Wow, okay. Oh no, that's not the one. I'm gonna click on it. It's gonna be great. Cool. Cool. Oh, this is not the right, no, it is. Lightning Net Crate. Okay, so it looks like these two guys, Max FangX and Philip9, are working to compile and run LDK within an XGX enclave using the Fortinix Enclave development platform. Anyways, so does anyone know what SGX is? It's like basically like a very hard, what's the boo for? I think the SGX is just, it's very broken. It's very broken, but they're gonna run Lightning on it. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, so anyways, this is like interesting. I messaged the people who work at LEK and asked them what they thought was new and interesting in Lightning, and this is what they sent me. So they were like, we didn't even know this was happening. And all of a sudden someone's like sending this thing. So SGX I think is like, it's a hardened enclave that's kind of like an HSM sort of thing, and you can do like computation in it. So running Lightning in that, who knows what they're going to do with that? Maybe some interesting HSM style stuff. I don't know. Cool. Okay, moving on. I got booed on that one. Man, first Lincoln I got booed. Wow, tough crowd. Okay, cool. The other awesome thing that launched lately is this thing called Vita. Vita is live, is it on Twitter? I signed up, I have an account. You can pay money to talk to me. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so don't call me though. Like, I won't answer the phone. I mean, you can call me, but like I might just like pick it up and put down the phone, and you can listen to silence for a few minutes while you pay me money. Yeah, so you can send messages. I think there's like a bunch of people on here. Jack was like, Jack of Twitter. It looks like you can message him for 63 cents. Yeah, I think this is from Lyle Pratt, made this app. I'm pretty excited about it. Personally ranked number, I think, 58 out of most paid, whatever, First night.
I would just say if you're unwilling to speak at that rate, you should raise the rate.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. This is true. I gotta charge more money. Number 58 earner, guys. So get on here and see if you can earn more sats than Nifty. Yeah. So I think this is really cool, and what I really like about this project is that it's clearly like with Lightning, one thing that we've kind of at least that I've been talking about a lot, not something I work on. Again, I work on protocol layer, but I think there's definitely this opportunity for applications to do new and interesting things, like pay to talk to someone on the internet, that Lightning in theory enables, right? So yeah, I'm super excited to see people kind of playing around with this stuff.
It's a manifestation of using value to fight spam, which has been talked about a long time in Bitcoin and elsewhere. And let's apply it to wherever it can be used.
I think we have a question over here. I think, no, okay, this is a paid comment period, so okay.
I just want to say Lyle lives here. Lives in Austin, which is cool. And I talked to him about this, and it's interesting because he has a background in telecom. He's an expert in telecom, built a telecom business. So I almost think that he's not trying to build an app. He's just making an excuse to monetize telecom data, which has a big settlement problem. So it's cool. I think what he actually wants to do is build a platform for monetizing telecom data. And he keeps making an app as an excuse to demonstrate this technology, which eventually would be sold to infrastructure companies, not end users. So it's a really cool vision he has.
Yeah. And one fun thing as well is in the back end, this is using the SIP protocol, which is a session interconnect protocol. So just SIP, not SIP protocol. But SIP, like HTTP, has a 402 payment required error code, which is what he's using for Lightning Part, which I think is really neat.
The other interesting thing is he showed me all these libraries. He's an interesting guy to talk to. He showed me all these libraries about telecom stuff, all these Node.js libraries. It's interoperate with these old school telecom standards. It's really fascinating, kind of.
Should invite him as a guest.
Huh?
Should invite him as a guest.
Yeah, he'd be a great speaker.
Awesome. We'll have Lyle up here. Someone knows how to get in touch with him. Why is he not here today?
He had too late a notice and the wife wouldn't let him leave.
I see. Okay. Cool. So next up is Lightning Router app had a new thing. So if you guys aren't familiar with Lightning Router app, they are a node ranking service. They do data analytics for the Lightning Network, which is cool. They just launched something new, best performing routing nodes, where they show kind of how people rank on terms of how good they are at routing things, which is cool. I would be interested to know how different this is from the other metrics that we have, right? I don't know. Anyways, it's kind of cool.
Am I correct in thinking they have a couple different ways of filtering, right? They have the best performing, and then there's a couple different things, with lenses you can look at the best nodes. I think I remember seeing that.
I don't see it there. So.
Do you know how they collect their data?
The Lightning Network information is generally publicly available, and so you can observe the graph and so on.
Yeah, I think they observe the graph. I also think they do some probing, is my understanding from. Yeah, I think they're probably, a big prober of the Lightning Network. Which, if you don't know what probing is, so part of I don't know how many people. Anyways, it's on Lightning Network, the way that channels work is that you have a balance in it, but the balance is not who has how much of that particular balance on which side of the whatever is not public information. So typically, in order to figure out if you can route a payment, you have to try it at a certain amount, and then it will fail, and that failure gives you some small amount of information about whether or not or where the balance is in the channel. So by sending a whole bunch of little bitty payments at different volumes, et cetera, you can kind of get a good map of where the liquidity is in the network currently. It's kind of considered a spam case. So I don't know. It's not something that really supposed to, I don't know. Yeah.
Are there any
what is the solution? What are we solving for? Solution means sounds like there's a, well, I mean.
We just learned we don't like spam, right?
Well, I mean, they're failed payments, and failed payments are a natural part of the privacy aspect of not telling people what your channel balance is, right? So it's like I think there's like a trade-off here, right, in terms of like what matters to you. Do you want payments that are reliable and go through every time, or do you want people to not know what your balance of your node is, right? And the way that you hide the one is by making payments fail. And so you kind of make it such that like everyone has to discover where the liquidity is, sort of blindly walking the graph and getting data back every time they attempt a payment. The other one is or you can trade off that certain amount. And it's not even like, I mean, there's a good question here about whether or not that's actually privacy, if you can probe for it, like what level is that? It's like, well, then you kind of have to like put in some like sweat work to figure out where the lightning is. So it's not just available to anyone who wants to know, it's available to people that are going to work for it, right? Whereas I think there's definitely people in the other camp that are like, Lightning is unreliable. We should make Lightning more reliable. The way that you make Lightning more reliable is by exposing more information about where the balances and channels are. So you, in theory, I mean, it is like a reduction in privacy in terms of like how much balance of Bitcoin you have currently in Lightning. So if you make that public, then payments will be more reliable, but you won't have that privacy anymore. So when you're like, okay, do we solve the spam problem? It's like, well, you know, how important is privacy in terms of that?
Wouldn't that increase the spam too, because you have to gossip the balances constantly?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple different proposals I've seen on how to gossip it, or like how to change it, basically. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's sort of a hard problem, right? It's like a decentralized network, and so at some level with a decentralized network, you run into a problem of like how do you share information to parties that need to know it, and like that, you know. So, anyways, yeah.
So I think probing could also be helpful to determine which nodes are well balanced, and from that you can kind of come up with the score for nodes and sort of hold track. So
Yeah, and you can see this has like a balance percent thing, right? So I think that's part of what Severin is doing, is figuring out where things are.
Yeah, so it's important to distinguish between the worst case scenario where some observer knows every channel's balance and every channel's allocation over time, and if you know that, then you can watch payments flow across the network and you know the sender and recipient. And so this is the thing we want to mitigate or prevent, whereas having some statistics about the general kind of balance of things over time can be helpful potentially. So I think it's as much art as science in this case, and I'm looking forward to further developments, and maybe we can contribute to the conversation there.
as far as spam is concerned, weren't there discussions recently about paying for probing essentially?
Yes, there were, yeah. I mean, as soon as you start paying up front for stuff, it's like, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. It doesn't, paying for payments doesn't give you any amount of reliability either, though. Why don't I just take your money and like, I don't know.
To be continued.
Is the link list online somewhere where can we get?
I posted it to the meetup.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's in a comment.
Okay, next up, another exciting development in the Lightning data ecosystem. Amboss launched their Lightning channel marketplace called Magma. So what this is a service, basically like a bulletin board service, where you can post liquidity that your Lightning node is offering and kind of put up how much you want to get paid for it. And then anyone can come and offer to buy it through Magma. And Magma will basically watch that the channel gets opened. They allow one of the parties can basically buy the liquidity from you. So basically it like creates a place where you can go and look at the nodes that are offering liquidity, figure out if they're like a good match for the inbound liquidity that you're looking for. Also lets you sell your inbound liquidity or sell inbound liquidity. So basically you get paid to open channels. They do it using something called HODL invoices. So you send Amboss, you basically pay Amboss an invoice, or you pay an invoice to Amboss, and they forward it on to the channel seller after Amboss is basically seeing that channel got opened on chain. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. I think they said they had already gotten like 8.3 Bitcoin worth of channels have already been opened or sold through the ecosystem. And there's a lot of people that have listed stuff. And it's cool because you can see like, oh, they've got like so much to sell and you can go buy it. So that's pretty fun. So it's cool. Like, I don't know. It's kind of cool to see more stuff like this pop up. There's like Lightning Pool, which works a little bit differently. Then there's liquidity ad stuff that I spent a lot of time working on, which is also a little different. And now Magma, I think, is the first one that's like, Magma, I think, is the first channel marketplace that is not anyone, it doesn't matter what version of like what Lightning implementation you're running, it doesn't matter, like as long as you can like receive and pay an invoice and open channels, you can use Magma, which is cool. So first like cross-platform channel marketplace.
So another way to make money on your Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's the thought, right? Yeah, that's the whole thought. Okay, cool. This is cool. So this is more protocol stuff. I think is this in bolts? Okay, so our recent Core Lightning release added this experimental feature, which is a proposal to add DNS host names to addresses on your Lightning node. So when you have a Lightning node right now, you advertise where you can be found publicly, and right now the only like way that you can advertise where you're located is with an IP address. This proposal, and I think we've added it to Core Lightning, it would let you put in like a host name. So like instead of saying I'm at like 557281 whatever, you would be able to say, hey, you can contact me at nifty.lol, right? And that's cool about that is like then you can use basically like the DNS resolution system to figure out what the IP address is. But what that lets you do is basically you could hide your node like at home kind of thing, and you wouldn't have to worry about like doing your IP address changing because you have like a DNS name that like basically will resolve and stuff. So that's cool. I don't know. Yeah, what's up?
Does it work with Onion?
Onion being the Tor stuff. So there's a way to advertise. So Tor stuff is already built into the address advertisement system. So if you have a Tor address, yes, you advertise a Tor thing. But that's already one of the, I think right now there's like 4 options. This adds a 5th of addresses you can advertise. The 4 types are IPv4, IPv6, Tor Onion v2, and Tor Onion v3. So those are already supported. So a lot of people already run nodes that only advertise Tor addresses. This is just adding like another type where you could advertise using a DNS. Yeah. That's cool. Eclair had a release. There are 2 things. I think this is back in February. I also think that this was like, yeah. Oh, I forgot to check LDK releases, but that's fine. Okay, so this adds support for 2 long-awaited things. So they added anchor outputs and onion messages. Onion messages are a, what do you call it? Kind of a precursor thing that we need in order to get Bolt 12 working. So it's exciting that Eclair has that shipped now. When I was talking to T-Bast, who's one of the lead developers on the async project, he was saying that it's now available and you can try it out and test it out. It's got RPZs and stuff. So if you're into the Scala, Eclair is the Lightning implementation that's written in Scala. So if you are into Scala and the Scala Bitcoin ecosystem, you should definitely check out Eclair and check out their new Onion messages, RPCs and stuff. So that's pretty exciting. I guess like we're in May now, so like since February is a while. Okay, cool. This one is from Fiat Jeff. This is also like Scala. Is it Scala or Scala? Does anyone know? Scala, thank you. Scala dev in the house. How many Scala devs do we have? Yeah, awesome. Okay, yeah, Scala Bitcoin. Yeah. Cool. All right, so you too can be a Scala dev. So what Fiat Jeff did is he took, so there's Eclair is the Lightning node implementation that we were just looking at that just had their release. It's written in Scala. someone forked it a while ago. I think it was the team behind the Simple Bitcoin wallet, and changed some of the routing stuff in the protocol, etc. Fiat Jeff went and forked that on top of that and made it such that it's now easier to like import from the, I think, package library and just work, etc. So if you wanted to build a custom light node in Scala for our Scala devs in the house, this might be a good thing to look at. I'm not really sure how it compares to what LDK is trying to do. This is probably a little more batteries included than the LDK set, as my understanding. But I could be wrong about that. Anyways, cool, interesting stuff. Cool.
Didn't you post another one that was like even more minimal or something?
Fiat Jeff?
Yeah, I thought you posted two. There was another one besides Immortan, like cliche.
Oh, is this more recent than this one?
Immortan forks cliche, or it's a Immortan daemonizes cliche. Cliche is the light node, and then cliche is a library, and then Immortan daemonizes runs that library as a lightning node.
Yeah, it seemed to me like one of these two, maybe it's just cliche, was like the kind of like the simplest possible lightning node, which as a developer is kind of interesting if you want to understand how it works, because like getting into LND is very, for example, C Lightning is kind of difficult because there's so many damn features that it's hard to see how it works.
That's interesting. Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, it says light node. I guess that means light node stuff.
So we got about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Great. All right, I'm going to go fast. Kraken now accepts and sends Lightning. They have lots of deposits and withdrawals. This is from May 8th, so this is pretty recent. That's exciting. I don't know how long they've had it up. Does anyone know how long Kraken has had it running?
Like 3 weeks, and it's not programmatic yet. They don't have an API. It's only like personal withdrawal.
Wow. Cool. Yeah. Someone's been doing, that's a lot of hand withdrawals there. I don't know. Not on mobile. I don't know how many users Kraken has, so that's like kind of, I don't know. Okay, quick. I'm going fast. Okay. Karsten Auto released LND Managed J, which is cool. Okay, apparently it's hard to. This is another thing from the Java ecosystem. There's a lot of Java stuff happening today. I've heard really good things about this. I was talking to Renee over the weekend, and he was saying that this is a really cool way of getting a lot of really good granular data on kind of where your expenses are going on your Lightning node. I think it only works with LND currently. Apparently, it's hard to install and use, but he had some pretty cool pictures, not on here. I think they're on the thing, of a interface someone had added on top of it. I'm going to go faster now. MIT Bitcoin Expo was over the weekend. There were a couple of Lightning talks. Andres Neves from Zebedee had a pretty good conversation, or at least presentation, on Lightning addresses. Thank you. And I talked with Jeremy Rubin and Renee, and I think Jonathan dialed in through the internet thing, and we had a conversation about, like, a kind of long-ranging conversation about Lightning. So that's kind of cool stuff. They're kind of hard to find on here. Most of the Lightning stuff is on day 1. So if you go to day 1 here, I think it starts at like hour 2 is where Andre's thing starts up, which is cool. Bitcoin Lightning Networks talked about they're reaching 700 plus Bitcoin capacity open through swaps on LN Plus, which is cool. It's interesting to kind of put that in contrast with, this was tweeted May 11th, so I don't know what today is, it's 12th. Kind of, I don't know. So they've been going for, like, I think a few years now. So it's interesting to see, you know, Amboss had like 8 Bitcoin that they've done in a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Be interesting to see how long it takes them to hit 700 through bought and sold stuff. I don't think that Lightning Networks Plus is a paid for thing. I think it's like free. It's like find a friend and like they'll do it. It's cool. Lightning Labs has started the first ever LND PR review club, starts making contributions. It's tomorrow. Okay, today's the 11th. We're good. Starts tomorrow at, where is the Texas time? There's no Texas time on here. Yeah, right? Okay, thank you. In LND Slack channel review club. So if you're interested in hanging out for the LND PR review club, you should check it out. That sounds cool.
At noon.
Is it noon? Is it high noon tomorrow? Thursday, high noon, Texas time. Cool. Okay. Dusty, who's here, did the first real splice on main chain. We give it up for Dustin. Yeah, super exciting. Really exciting about splicing stuff. This is a feature that will let people dynamically change the value of Bitcoin that's locked into a channel, so you can keep your channel processing payments while you basically renegotiate the on-chain output that kind of anchors that channel. And Dustin's been working on it for a few months now, and super excited to do the first one on main chain. So nice job, Dustin. That's super awesome. Yeah, we're excited about it. Coming to a core lightning near you soon, 2 weeks, TM. Speaking of splicing, I am giving a talk on splicing. The Draper Bitcoin Studio is starting, I think, to try and do some talk stuff. They invited me to come and talk about lightning and splicing, so it will be next, I think, Tuesday at 12 p.m. Texas time. I don't know, it's only on May 17th. Yeah, so if you're interested in learning more about splicing and what is cool and interesting about that, we will be doing an online webinar. Okay, am I almost done? I'm almost done.
And clearly, splicing is going to play well with the liquidity markets because you can have like third parties like join in your channel, basically.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that all works. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really exciting stuff that we can do with that. I think the rest of the stuff is just like protocol updates and stuff. I don't remember why I had this on here. Sorry, there were like notes. LDK and async are closing in on about 12 implementation, which is exciting. That will let, this is the PR for offers, otherwise known as offers, which is kind of cool. Lets you just have a QR code that people can pay you to, and you don't have to change the QR code, which is really exciting. Zero conf channels are like headed towards getting cross implementation support. I think LDK has an implementation. I think async has one. I think LND and LDK have already done their interop testing. Core Lightning is closing in on this also, so that's really exciting stuff. I don't know. I'm not super excited about zero conf channels. This is a conversation maybe for next time, but we don't think we're out of time. But yeah, it's a thing. People want it. It's going to happen. What's my last thing? Is this my last thing? Oh, sorry. This is exciting, personally. This is the protocol thing that I had worked on for a couple of years. It's happening in Eclair. So notice this is not me who is working on this. Implement interactive transaction construction in Eclair. And so this is really exciting because this means that the underlying spec that backs like the liquidity ad stuff and also splicing might also be on async very soon. So then you could do AAC Lightning, async dual funded channel, or a splice between the two of them. Though that'll be a little later, I think. Cool. Okay. We'll save the announcements for the end, maybe.
Yeah, I think let's do it.
Oh.
No, we can announce.
Are you doing announces? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, I have more announcements. Bitcoin Plus Plus is happening here in Austin. Yeah. Super excited. This is my first time running a conference. It's going absolutely great. I love it. Greatest thing I've ever decided to do. Yeah, but we still have some tickets on sale. It's going to be here in Austin, June 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th. It's a 2-day workshop conference with a lot of your favorite educators and teachers and builders in the space, followed by 2 days of hacking here in Bitcoin Commons. Thank you, Unchained. Yeah, and we're super excited. There, you can get tickets. This website looks awesome because Car is amazing, so thank you, Car. Yeah. Hoping to have the agenda out by the end of the week. Keep me honest on that one. And then final thing is I spend a lot of my free time teaching people about Bitcoin, specifically the Bitcoin protocol. It's a 6-week class. We're wrapping up our second ever batch next week, so it'll be next Thursday. Our next class starts up in June, so if you're interested in learning more about Bitcoin, etc., come hang out. Those are class prereqs, which are kind of fun stuff. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. Next up, we have our speaker, Michael Atwood, who is right over here. And we'll get started. Let's take a break for like 5 minutes, and then we'll get started with that. You guys about ready to get started again? Get back into it? Yeah. So here's Michael Atwood from Oshi.
All right, everyone. I felt like doing this. Like normally it's the bottle pop sound with TFTC, but this is going to be the Waterloo sparkling water. Woo! All right. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about B-commerce. Again, not to be confused with e-commerce. This is B-commerce. This is a lot better. We're going to talk about the operational difficulties of bringing Lightning to end retailers. Now, this is a trick. I did not come up with this title. That sounds very engineer-like. It's a great title, but I am not an engineer. I am not a software developer. I'm just a regular guy that really loved Bitcoin, and I wanted to focus a bit more on like the product aspect of Bitcoin so that we can bring Bitcoin to everyone, specifically small business owners. So that's what I've been focused on for the better part of the last 3 years. So a lot of stuff I'll talk about today may be like kind of anecdotal, but it's what I've seen like in the field, talking with hundreds and hundreds of business owners and consumers, and like trying to build a product that people actually want to use, not just for the consumers, but the businesses too. So let's just jump right in. So something that I do whenever I first start talking to business owners, I normally just lead with like, look, Bitcoin is the thermodynamic bridge between the digital and the physical world. No, I don't say any of that shit. I pretty much just like leave it blank. I don't really get into Bitcoin. You're gonna lose most people. I jump right into Lightning, and that's something that we haven't really had the opportunity to do up until the past few years. You can jump right into the use cases that can help business owners right here, right now, without necessarily selling them on like, the hardest monetary asset known to man. As much as I subscribe to all of that stuff, most business owners don't even have time to get started with that. So I typically don't try. I'm more like a salesman. I'm like your Lightning salesman here. I go to the businesses, and I'm like, hey, like this thing right here, like this can empower your business. It can bring you more consumers. It can save you in processing fees. It can help your entire community, and it can free you from financial tyranny, right? I normally don't say that last part, but it will. If they're curious, I'll talk to them about that too. But what's really cool is because the tools are getting so much better now that I can just become the salesman. I don't necessarily have to dive into all the tech. Like I can slap the hood of this thing. Maybe I don't know exactly what's going on underneath the hood, but I can show you how to use it. I can make it look nice and make you want to take it for a test spin as a business owner, as a consumer. That's really kind of what we're trying to do. And like I said, it's getting easier and easier and easier. Business owners are more open to accepting Bitcoin than you may think. They're more open to actually holding it, not just accepting it, but actually holding on to it. Because like, what the hell? Like, why not? A lot of them, I don't even play into that. A lot of them, they're like, oh, well, I just want to change it to dollars. I'm like, oh, sure. Yeah, you can change it to dollars if you want. You'll just have to go through KYC, KYB. You have to link your bank account. The fees are going to be higher. I mean, still less than what you're already paying, but they're going to be higher. Or you could just like roll the dice, start accepting Bitcoin, hold on to it. It's not going to be a ton of, percentage of your sales, and just hold it. And most of them are like, okay, like they're typically cool with it. Of course, if they're at least intrigued to begin with. But yeah, more businesses are willing to try new things. They're looking for ways to differentiate themselves from the competition. There's a million different coffee shops. There's a million different restaurants. How do they stand out? Or, in a growing community of Bitcoin or crypto enthusiasts, how do they attract those consumers? So what this means is that we need way more tools than people think. Because what I'm seeing on the ground floor is that these businesses are eager, they're willing, they just don't necessarily have access to or knowledge of the tools that already exist. And that's where, as kind of the Bitcoin community, we really need to lean into that and help to educate them. There's all sorts of different people, whether you're a Bitcoin meetup or just an individual that is starting like Bitcoin consulting. or just, you know, somebody that says, hey, like, I want to take Bitcoin to my town. There's so many people doing this all over the country now. Things like the Beef Initiative, let's say. I mean, they're straight up intriguing these farmers and ranchers and showing them that there's a better way to do this. You can bring new clientele. And like Cole from KNC, I mean, beef is like flying off the shelves. So, you know, it's definitely good for business. So we have the technology. So we have BTC Pay. You can do your self-hosted options. You have, you know, non-custodial options that are cloud hosted as well. You have things like Voltage, right? Which is also really cool. You have OpenNode, which is, you know, custodial. They're going to host it for you. They're going to make the onboarding really easy. They're going to offer US dollar off-ramps for the business, which also is nice for them. You have IBEX, which is, you know, currently KYC free. You can take the funds and zip them over to on-chain address. And the onboarding is super simple. You can be up and running within minutes to accept Bitcoin. I'll get to you in a second, man. I see you. So Galloway, they're responsible for Bitcoin Beach. They're responsible for a lot of the infrastructure, the community, you know, kind of banking, Bitcoin banking infrastructure. Nick just spun up like a Galloway node. He's over here like doing the pleb bank of Austin, running on the Galloway infrastructure. I mean, took like an hour to spin up? And of course you have Strike, both merchant services, and then they also have, so they have the consumer-facing services, and now they're rolling out more merchant services as well. So we have the tools, and furthermore, we have like more tools. So Bitcoin Company is also looking to be a Lightning service provider. Where did Ben go? Yeah, there he is. They are. They already are. But it's more like under wraps a little bit right now, it sounds like. But you're good. That's right. Yeah, we're going to talk about that later too. I want to make sure. I keep hearing to buy tickets for Bitcoin plus plus, but I mean, if you guys want to save 20%, there's some other ways to buy it. Okay, so we have that. And furthermore, like a lot of these companies, I'm talking with a lot of these companies about like, okay, here's the deal. Like this onboarding process, like needs some work. Like these businesses, if there's too much friction, they don't want to do it. They're already a little on the fence. Make it as easy as possible. You have different companies where you can just quickly set up to receive Lightning payments, doing KYC on the back end, maybe if they want to withdraw, or doing all that stuff. But you can start accepting now, right? You can start accepting within minutes without having to do all this upfront work. By the time the businesses are done with their KYC, KYB, linking their bank account and all that crap, before they even accept a payment, now we can just stop there. Like it's probably just not going to happen unless they really want to do it. And frankly, like I'm trying to get them to be incentivized to just accept the Bitcoin. Like aside from the fact that they get final settlement, but once they start touching dollars, it becomes a pain in the ass. And you know, if you're building an LSP service, like make it painfully aware to the business, to the end user. Like if you want to interface with the dollar system, like it's going to suck. Like it's going to be fine, but you're going to have to jump through all these hoops. The fees are going to be higher. Just use Bitcoin. So there are some of these companies here that are incentivizing their users. You know, they're basically like subsidizing the fees of like accepting. Sorry, they're making the fee to accept Bitcoin payments and to also, if you want, convert those Bitcoin. You know, the Bitcoin you receive to dollars, and making it the same fee. And I personally think that's the wrong way to go about it. We want to incentivize people to hold the Bitcoin. Did you want to jump in there?
I think that's beautiful, using the regulations against the dollar, right? Like the regulations are our enemy, and we can use them against them.
Exactly. And you know, businesses like that safety net though. They like to know that, oh, okay, so whenever I'm ready, I can like maybe start auto-converting the payments I receive. Maybe like 10% of it will stay in Bitcoin and 90% will go to dollars. Like on some slim chance, all of a sudden, like I'm receiving so much Bitcoin that it's going to affect my day-to-day operations, like which isn't going to happen anytime soon. I mean, I wish that were the case, but I don't think it's going to quite happen like that anytime soon. As bullish as I am. But just that's a safety net for them. So, you know, for everybody in this room, you can lean on that and let them know, like, hey, if they want to switch to dollars, they can, but always incentivize them, like, hey, look, if you just use Bitcoin, it's going to be easier, faster, cheaper, better. yeah, so just want to talk about that. And we have the incentives, right? So the consumer side, they need incentives to want to spend Bitcoin because the experience is not better than tapping your card yet, or at least it's not so much better that they're going to start changing their behavior. Like, this is how debit and credit cards, and this is how they basically took over. I mean, only 5% of sales were done online, and you needed a card to do those sales. So this was like back in, I don't know, between like 2005 and 2010. So they needed more incentives. They rolled out all the rewards programs and everything, basically like, hey, you spend the full amount and the merchant is going to charge you like 3 or 4%, and we're going to pretend like we're giving you like 2% back whenever we're actually just like giving you back what you already paid in merchant fees. It's kind of a scam. And furthermore, like, they're just holding your change. So you're just going to pay like $100 and they'll give you 2% back, and they just keep your change. The really cool thing about Bitcoin and where we have the upper hand on this is the fact that we can actually, through things like Strike or other mechanisms, you can effectively like zip your dollars over the Lightning Network, or basically send Bitcoin from your checking account, let's say. So that the merchant receives the Bitcoin, they receive all the benefits of having that Bitcoin transaction, but as a consumer, you can receive Bitcoin rewards, even though you used dollars on your end to make that payment effectively. That's like a superpower. And I think the incentives like this, so you have like my company, Oshi, we just try to get the businesses onboarded to, one of many payment providers here. The Bitcoin company, as we discussed, is also a payment provider. And from there, we try to incentivize the consumer with different deals and allow the business to offer these deals on their own accord, right? You have the Bitcoin company doing a lot of, kind of similar things in a way. So they have the gift cards, they have the international Visa cards, which is awesome. They're going to have card-linked offers and a bunch of other stuff. Fold, right? You can either swipe your card, but you can also pay for gift cards with Lightning too, right? So all these companies, I'm not going to go one by one, but they're providing the incentives for people to use Bitcoin. Now you have to like connect the two, right? The incentives have to be there for both. And where a lot of the businesses get caught up on is like the point of sale. Like, we don't really have that. IBEX has an awesome thing. It's a web-based, like very, very simple point-of-sale terminal that can just generate invoices. But like, if we're talking robust point of sale where you have like all of these functions, like inventory management, like, all these things that I can't even begin to explain, that doesn't exist. And for a lot of these businesses, that's where it gets a little difficult. They imagine you're a consumer and you paid for something on one of these apps and you go in and redeem it, and it's a pain in the ass for either the business or it's a pain in the ass for the employee. And then as a consumer, you're like, well, this kind of sucks. I'm like holding up the line, like this isn't working as well as I thought it would, and then it just ruins the whole experience. So this is something that we're missing. So for like all the engineers out there, the developers, like and there are people working on different point of sale solutions. And of course, we do have like integrations, like Strike is talking about or has the NCR integration that'll be rolled out, whenever. But we can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting comment that I think there's a good path of integrating with the various point of sale systems already. So both of Jack's announcements at Bitcoin 2022, I think, point to that. And because I don't know if we built a Lightning, like a Bitcoin Lightning point of sale system, that would be a major mover in the market, right? Like, there's a lot of established companies and whatnot that we would have to appeal to.
Exactly. And so, yeah, these point of sale systems are pretty sticky. I mean, imagine like walking into a business that doesn't accept Bitcoin yet, doesn't know much about it, be like, hey, I got like this special Bitcoin point of sale system for you that can also do debit and credit cards. Don't worry. They're not going to switch. It's going to be an incredibly tough sell. If they're already using Square or Toast, I mean, like, good luck. So yeah, we had to come up with like novel ways to kind of integrate into these point of sale systems. But even so, like, let's say like Square flips the switch tomorrow and now you can pay with Lightning. Who's going to pay with Lightning aside from us in this room? The ideologues, or I know you will. besides us in this room, I mean, because we're ideologues or people that want to do it for the novelty aspect of it, and in general, they're still going to tap their card. They still feel as though they get 2% back whenever they swipe their card, even though those rewards are a scam. So yeah, these are just like some of the problems. And furthermore, you know, Lisa, you kind of talked about it today on TFTC. And like, let's say hypothetically, like you have Strike that is both the kind of like Lightning merchant point of sale provider, like even if it's an integration, they're providing those Lightning services to NCR, let's say, in theory. And they are also going to provide the incentives within Strike, because Strike has different cash back, and of course they could do sats back in some way, shape, or form as well. Is that better or worse than what we already have, where now you're using Strike to pay, and on the receiving end, you basically have Strike in the point of sale, so then it's just Strike to Strike. It's Strike user to Strike user. It's Strike consumer to Strike merchant. That's just a database entry. Now, yeah, you can use any wallet to pay, which is awesome. But, you know, I do have some concerns even on the like LSP side of things. You know, there's all sorts of different ways to do it. There's things like Sensei and Greenlight. I'm kind of rambling here, so anytime you guys want to ask a question. But like there's a Greenlight, I don't know a whole lot about it yet, but I just know it's like kind of like parent node, child node, like liquidity is provided, like you have your own keys. Maybe it's like cloud hosted, maybe it's self-hosted, maybe it's both. Do you want to mic?
Yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I think is really interesting about the POS thing is that you can tell, like, it's funny that an old cash register company would adopt this, right? Like, it's very counterintuitive, but it makes sense because, like, the merchant is the person who gets fucked in the current system. That's where all the rewards come from. And so if you could say, like, okay, well, do you want to, like, not get fucked? They're going to say yes to that. Like, that's the one who's going to adopt it, right? So.
Yes, yeah. The incentives are all there. Like, the incentives are really there. It's like, I don't know, someone told me the other day, like, Visa owns like 10% of Square. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some pushback there. Like, I don't know. I don't know about NCR. I mean, who knows? But maybe that's neither here nor there, but it's like, the incentives are there. I mean, do you want to, how you put it, like, stop fucking merchants, which are basically passing those fees down to the consumer anyway. Like, everything could be cheaper, it could be less. I mean, let's just say, I'm going like a brief spiel here. Like, for thousands of years, settlement was instant, it was final. There were no chargebacks. There were no processing fees. They used cash-like instruments, whatever it was, paper money, shiny rocks, whatever, doesn't matter. You had privacy. You didn't need permission. And for the past like 50 years, it's basically an anomaly. We've had an increasing number of payments done through financial intermediaries, card issuers, payment processors, and so on, where there's no privacy. It's completely permissioned. You have to, have a bank account or whatever or to access it. There's processing fees every single time you swipe that card. And now, Visa or MasterCard or whatever, all the intermediaries get a cut out of every single transaction that takes place at the local level. Right? Not just like online, but they incentivized everybody to now do it in store too. Again, it's more than just financial incentive, but the experience was nice. So Lightning can fix all of that. The incentives are there. People just need to take the big leap, and NCR, seems to be taking a really big step in the right direction. And, they're going to have leverage over all of the other point of sale systems, at least for now.
Yeah, so one thing I heard from NCR is that, my understanding of it is that their vendors want their next, generation point of sale system to be able to process crypto. So I think this thing that you're saying about how, the merchants are the ones driving it is, at least true as far as I understand with, NCR stuff, yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, and ultimately, I guess, maybe the switch could be flipped, but it's all up to the merchants to actually decide to want to do it. But yeah, all of it's there. But my whole thing is I want the small businesses to do it. I don't particularly care about what Wall Street is doing and what the big corporations are doing. They're going to do what they do. This is incredibly empowering, and it really lifts up small businesses and puts them on a more equitable playing field, like for digital payments for the first time ever. And that's really exciting. So I guess ultimately, I wanted to give an overview of all this, and I wanted to be like, we need some serious tools. We've built all these different integrations with all these different payment providers, and like all the endpoints are different, and like everything's different. It's like a custom integration for everything. That would be nice to have something a little easier there. The onboarding process needs to be like one-click setup, which is already kind of moving that way. And then one more thing, the tipping is like terrible. People go, yeah, they can just download Move Wallet, and I can tip them like $5. But they pool tips generally. They have to account for tips. This employee was working for 3 hours. This one just clocked out. They worked for 5. Like, how are we going to split that out? Do they want the Bitcoin? Do they want the dollars? There's a lot of different ways this could be done. But, just food for thought for this DevConf and hackathon. We need a really great way to be able to accept tips and then divvy them out based on who was on the clock during that time, based on maybe what wallet they're using or Lightning address they're using or whatever. Like, that's a huge problem right now. Like, I can't even. I don't think there's any way to like underplay that or overplay that.
So another angle on some of what you've been saying is that part of our role is, rather than having the merchant make a great leap, have them make a small leap because of the way that the ecosystem is integrated and easily available, right?
Yeah. I mean, right now, on Oshi, you select your payment provider. And I think this is also going to be critically important because we need like the free flow of like businesses to be able to pick and choose like a payment provider, like super easy. Like if they want to start with OpenNode, or if they want to start with, let's say, more of like a custodial, a great service, but it's like custodial or it's KYC'd and all that, and then let them start with that. Like, let them start. And then, but offer through these platforms the ability for them to like, oh, I want to be like a little more self-sovereign now. Like, I want to maybe use like Voltage. Like, I want to spin up my node super easily. I'm not self-hosting it, but I have my own keys.
So here's a question. Let's look ahead a few years at some of the things they're already developing and imagine that future and what might we need then, because those are some of the things we could consider building. And so in that time, the point of sale integrations will be in place. Probably Apple, there will be APIs for NFC, so the payment, like touch to pay, will be easily available. The integrations will be there. So what, in that context, do you think people should be thinking about?
Yeah, so what I want to see is I want to see at the Square terminal. If you want to use like Square or like Cash App or whatever to host, like to be your LSP, then you can do that. But I want to see like on all of these point of sale systems and all these apps that are helping, that have merchant services, to say, oh, do you have like an IBEX account or an OpenNode account? Or do you have a BTC Pay server? You have a Bitcoin company, or are they your LSP? Like, one click, I want to use them now. Why? Because, well, their fees are lower, or, well, they don't have to do KYC, or, well, they have dollar convertibility and I want whatever the case may be. I think that will create more of like a free market too, and allow these LSPs to be incredibly competitive, which the consumer and the merchant are going to win there. But if we just like lock everybody in and make it super sticky, like I think we could wind up having a similar situation that we already have, where you have like a small number of payment providers and card issuers and banks and all this. Like, of course, so you're going to have consolidation right now as we're like bootstrapping this, and this is where like I can't get too deep into that, but we should encourage distribution of the network through all of these wonderful services that are inevitably going to be, cost less and have less maybe overhead for the merchant. And those natural incentives of like Bitcoin, I think we need to let those play out.
And to your point earlier about the risk of centralization, like if everyone's using Strike, for example. I think this is something that part of our role is watching for those situations, being aware of that risk, and building, like critiquing by building in response to that.
Yeah, and like disclaimer, like this is what we do with Oshi. This is just how I see it. Take it with a grain of salt. I just think that you don't have to provide the infrastructure. In fact, I don't even know how much like the rewards platform and the LSP should be like in one, because then I feel like they can kind of like have a monopoly on the businesses they have, because they have them also accepting the payments on their behalf. And then I don't know, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I just want to connect everything. Like I want the merchant to choose, and we're just facilitating like this marketplace as a, you know, so it's exciting.
So no 51% attacks on like the LSP market, I feel like is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
like,
let's make
decentralized like all the way through the stack. Okay.
Yeah, like just distribute it. I think a lot of these different apps, like whether it's a podcasting app or whatever, like connect with whatever you want. Like you don't have to use like their node, or like connect with whatever you want. Like the Lightning address thing is cool to like withdraw your sats or whatever, or like do whatever. You don't have to like use their wallet or use their this or their that. I mean, in theory, you could just have applications. Again, like I'm just the cars. I want to package this thing up nice and neat and under the hood. Like I don't know what the hell's going on under there, like on a deep level, but I know that there's all these different LSPs that have, you know, the best tools and have been working on this to make it the best product as they possibly can, you know, and I can just focus on the experience and the incentives. You know, I think there's gonna be a lot of apps that come out like that. There's gonna be a lot of them.
It's a Socratic seminar, and so I guess this question is like more towards Lightning developers and C Lightning developers, because I think they're kind of at the forefront on this. But why can't it be so simple that there's just a QR code, and that you can just send payments to that QR code, and you can put memos on that QR code or the payment so that they know like what the payment's for. But the problem that I've seen with merchants is that like they always have to fumble for a device, and they either have to show you a QR code or they have to scan your QR code, and it's like, well, who's in charge of that device? And the person on the current shift, like, do they know where that device is? Have they even been trained on it? It just seems like a mess. Whereas as Bitcoiners, we're already well versed in the space. We know how this stuff works. If the technical burden was on us to just have this on our wallets, on our phones, and all we had to do was scan a QR code, and that would just send them a payment, it would send them a memo for the payment, they can see what the payment is for, it's an open-ended invoice. It just seems like the easiest solution. And is that what's kind of happening with like the offers and the thing that's being worked on with Bolt 12? And like, can you speak to anything like that?
I think that's definitely the vision with Bolt 12. I think like honestly, I think like the biggest kind of barrier between like where we are today and like that vision of reality that you're talking about is literally like people working between the implementation and the user, if that makes sense. Like, so I think there's like the, at least as far as like core Lightning is concerned, like you can use offers today. There's like nothing stopping you. And Rusty's got this really great website that's like Bootstrap, or like, I can't remember exactly, it's like offers.org. And he's got this cool Bootstrap thing that'll help you basically kind of get the last piece sort of between like I have an offer and I want to get an invoice kind of thing. So you can like, there's already an API that I guess I'm saying exists in terms of like being able to like convert those to invoices. I think like, you know, really it's just like there's no one that's building applications that use it. I think part of that is like, you know, core Lightning is a very small amount of like offer of wallets and like nodes right now. So while like, you know, we like to think of ourselves as like very forefront of like spec forward, experimental, like just trying different things in terms of making Lightning better. When we ship something, that doesn't mean that it's like accessible to most people that have Lightning nodes, first of all. You know, LDK is working on it, which means that there's a good possibility it might end up in the Cash App at some point soon, I think, which will make the number of wallets that support it like a lot farther along. But yeah, I think like the biggest barrier, like you know, the tech is there, like it exists, it works. It's really just at this point, I think like, you know, that like last 5,000 miles between like it actually is a thing and then like people have the tools in their hands that make it usable, right? So I think this is kind of like what Michael's like talking about, though, in terms of like, there's just like a bunch of stuff to be built that's like not like in the Lightning node exactly, but is like, like what is the payment flow? Like how does that work? Like how do you like get money? Like how do you get like a payment to a person exactly? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's the NFC thing would be a really big deal. Like what you're saying, like the static invoice. So they did that, or they do that in El Salvador, in like Bitcoin Beach. They have like a static invoice, and you can scan it, and then you can like punch in the amount that you owe. So you walk up, and the business is like, oh, it's 2 pupusas. It's like $3. Okay, cool. I'm gonna scan here. I'm gonna punch in $3. I'm gonna hit accept. And then I'm going to turn my phone around to like effectively the cashier and be like, here, look, my $3 payment's sent. But what I see, one of the problems with that is like, well, like, here's my screenshot of $3 like every time. And like, there's plenty of things. We don't have to make it perfect by any means right now. And that works there. But like at scale, I feel like that could be like super easily gamed. And of course there could be ways like, but if that payment could be maybe like communicated to like the point of sale, and then it actually shows up on the point of sale in real time, like boom, yeah, they paid it. Like we just received a payment for $3. It's probably this payment considering you have $3 in the cash, or like $3 rung up, like things like that, like just simple things. Or even, what I think about a lot too is like maybe more and more people are actually going to be participating in like e-commerce, b-commerce. Like they're going to be purchasing things maybe before they get there, or like as they get there. Maybe you don't need a cashier to like take your order anymore. Maybe you can order everything on your phone. It's super easy. You zip, you actually pay it. They give you some sort of token in which you can tap your phone and it'll like populate the order. It shows that it's been paid. This could be like different, like the DID stuff too, like which would be really interesting. You don't think so? I think this would be so interesting to like basically tokenize like the proof of purchase, not tokenize, but the proof of purchase.
I mean, Lightning already has proof
And by
of purchase.
token, I didn't mean like an actual token.
Yeah, but oh man, I don't know. We already have proof of purchases. You get like the pop, like pops. They already exist. Yeah. I think dudes are like, man, no, like no. That's a whole separate thing though. I get like real trick. It's fine, cool. Yeah.
Hey, I'm open. I'm open to suggestions.
Just to elaborate on this point, like I go to the process around IBEX payments, where it's like the merchant scans a QR code to bring up the wallet, types in the amount, shows a QR to the purchaser, gets it fulfilled, sees it on their phone. So you can think about like the different components of that could be eliminated. I think it's difficult to have. I mean. If the payment has to be associated with a certain purchase, then you either need like recency and time, like you're talking about, where it shows up on the point of sale, or you need some kind of way of connecting the payment to a specific interaction. And that's the main difficulty I see in that kind of proposal.
Yeah, it's definitely not there right now, yeah. But I wish.
cash that
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I like that you brought that up too. Yeah, in China, like they do, it's like majority of commerce is done kind of like e-commerce, like on your phone. Yeah, and so, and then like of course, you know, the downside of what they totally leapfrogged, right? But the downside is like, well, it's owned by like what WeChat, Alipay, and then it's like, you know, but we have the opportunity. Like, let's say they jumped into it too fast before it was ready, right? Before Lightning and like, you know, it was more feasible to do things like this. What Lightning brings is the opportunity to do it in a way more like distributed way with all the things we already talked about with Lightning. And that's like incredibly exciting because I don't think there's any, like there's definitely gains, like substantial gains and like impact on commerce too in a positive way to be able to like conduct commerce in that fashion. But they made like the communist trade-off, I guess. You know, it's the unfortunate. We have the opportunity to do it in a more free market way. It's really cool.
All right, so Dustin?
Yeah, if you had to pick one point of sale from the merchants you're talking to that had like a good Lightning integration, which one would that be? And then the kind of second follow-up to that is like, I wonder if you have merchants start like filing requests with that company to have Lightning. You know, they'll go to the middle of nowhere, they'll make a conversation, and then later as developers will approach that company, they'll already like heard about it from their customers.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, like Square and Toast. You know, Square has, you know, Block is the umbrella company, so obviously they're thinking about a lot of these things. But I wonder like what Toast is up to. I don't really know. Their API is like pretty closed. I have already talked with some vendors that have put out different requests with Toast. Like, hey man, like we're trying to do this Bitcoin thing. We're like using this Oshi thing, and we got like an IBEX going, and we got all this, and like, can you help us make this better? And Square merchants are doing the same thing. You know, to my knowledge, they are listening. I don't know about Toast. Like, I haven't had any contact with Toast, but they are listening. So, what immediate change comes from that, I don't know. But I would definitely say like every little bit helps, for sure.
Think you'd be able to get merchants like asking Toast to like nudge them?
For sure. Yeah, I have already. Yeah, I haven't heard anything back, but absolutely. I need to encourage more merchants to do that, though, for sure.
All right, any final thoughts? Thanks for bringing the perspective of the merchant and the sales side.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it was informative. But yeah, I mean, we have the tools. We just need to make them easier to use. It's like a balance between the experience and maybe like the incentives. The difference is like with payment providers, the better the experience got, the more people just became habitual card users. They could decrease the rewards, the incentives, and like the actual rewards, the financial incentive, and then they increase the fees. So once again, this is the beauty of like Lightning, where you can have more of a free market for this stuff.
I want to bring one other element to this kind of interaction that I think is operative, which is status. Like people like paying with a card and paying with certain cards is a communication of status, and like that is something that we can leverage or think about in the Bitcoin space as well.
Yeah, that's true. When was that? Last Austin Bitcoin Club this past Thursday, Brian from Three Forks was here. He's the owner of Three Forks, and he's like, look, I mean, he's into Bitcoin. Like he has a pretty decent understanding of Bitcoin. He's a great guy. He's like, look, I want a bunch of young, rich Bitcoiners to come to my restaurant and buy my steaks. Like, and you know, hey, Bitcoin just is, right? If that's what you as a business owner want, and it is kind of like he's on the right path. You know, so I think it's very interesting.
All right, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks to you guys. Thanks for having me.
So next up, anyone who's interested in giving a short talk, a brief announcement or something of that sort, you can line up here and maybe we'll take another 5-minute break. All right. now's your chance. Otherwise, we'll call it, and we'll be heading to Shiners after anyone who wants to join.
So one thing on this topic is we're organizing a trip to Rockdale.
All right, guys, attention, please. We have one announcement.
So we're organizing a little trip to Rockdale. We're going to see this this amazing barbecue restaurant run by, I think, the new mayor of Rockdale. It's fantastic barbecue joint, and then we're also gonna see the mining facility. So we're gonna a tour, which will be really cool. So I think that's part of the idea here. The interest for me, it'd be fun to kind of get some Bitcoiners to go and try to if you think about what sort of a place in the United States might adopt Bitcoin first. I think it would be a smaller place, not a big place, and I think it might be somewhere that mines Bitcoin, because there's a incentive. There's a big economic incentive to embrace, because that's where all the money's coming from. That's where all the jobs are coming from. There's 1,000 people that are employed to mine Bitcoin in Rockdale. So 5,000 people at the town. The mayor, I think, mines shitcoins. The old mayor, the new one doesn't, but old one. I mean, yeah, it's something there. But yeah, so we're doing that, and I think it's the 22nd. Kaylee, is that 21st? Yeah. So yeah, there's Saturday the 21st. 11 a.m. Okay. Cool. So 11 a.m. is the tour. Barbecue at 1, and we'll be blasting out emails. But I think you should all come to that, and we'll sort of see a business attempt to accept Bitcoin for the first time, which will be a lot of fun.
What is the email how do we get those emails?
We'll send it to the Lightning.
That's right. Yeah, we'll post the event as well.
Yeah, we'll send it from you.
Sounds good.
You all have a GitHub, Ventus has a GitHub? And
We do not have a GitHub as yet. This is our first meeting, but certainly, we want to do hackathons and things like that as well in the future. So let's talk. Yeah.
Are we ending it?
Yes, we are.
Thank you for coming out to the first ever Austin Lightning Devs meetup. Thank you, Lit Devs, the first one. Thank you for being part of our inaugural event. This is great. Hopefully this will be a big tradition, and you all were a part of it, so we're really grateful that you're here. Thank you for Ben for bringing it to us from San Francisco. We're glad to have you here. So. Great. I think that's all we've got. Thanks for showing up. Hope to see you at our next one, which I think is going to be June 8th. That's right. Location, probably here. Yeah, here. Yeah. Cool.
BTC++.
Oh yeah, BTC++. Buy your tickets. We're running out. It's going to be a small conference. So.
You're buying the Bitcoin company for 20%?
All right, we do have one more announcement, incidentally.
So this isn't organized by me, but I just wanted to shout it out because I think it's great. So you're gonna have a chance to testify at the Texas State Capitol regarding the adoption of Bitcoin in the city of Austin and maybe even the state of Texas, and that's going to be on Friday, May 20th. I remember I was told to come early, so I think it's going to start at 9 a.m. The proceedings, but get there a little early, like 8 or 8:30. So if you want to show up and you want to talk to your local representatives and actually get this thing rolling in terms of getting the government involved, then I'm going to show up. And so I hope you all show up too. It's at the Texas State Capitol, yeah. They're going to be having a hearing specifically on the adoption of Bitcoin in the city of Austin. What's the date? It's Friday, May 20th. Friday, May 20th. Please show up at least by 8:30 a.m. at the latest. And I hope you're not camera shy.
BitDev's on the 19th, then on the 20th, the Capitol, and then Rockdale.
And then Rockdale, yeah. It's a busy weekend, yeah.
Bitcoin Social Club.
All right, thanks again. See you guys at Shiners.